Hello everybody, I'm Melissa and welcome back to Book Bar and welcome to another Trope Tuesday trope recommendation. This one is going to be one night leads to more. So whether that is one night leads to baby, one night leads to friendship, one night leads to us hating each other, whatever it is, one night leads to more, which then leads to them falling in love. So we are just going to go ahead and get on into it. So the first book I have is A One Night Leads to Baby, and it is my favorite book of the year, probably one of my favorite books ever, Reckless by Elsie Silver. I adore this with my whole heart. This is the fourth book in the Chestnut Spring series. This is Theo, who is the young buck bull rider in Flawless, and Winter, who is Summer's sister, and they meet at a Eaton family party or Eaton family dinner. And Winter is very prickly. She's very grumpy. She's had a very hard time in her life. She's the exact opposite of her sister Summer. Summer and Winter, she is so grumpy, and Theo is the sunshine in this romance. And they have one night together, and obviously Winter ends up pregnant, and she tries to get a hold of Theo and doesn't. So it ends up being a secret baby, but kind of made sense. So I mean, it was a little far-fetched, but it is a romance, so I don't care. And then now it's like a year-ish later, more than a year, because I believe the baby's almost a year old, or 9 months old at least. So she said it's 18 months later, and Theo is now living next door to Winter, and he learns that she had a baby, and the baby looks just like Theo, and so he knows immediately that he is the father. And Winter is going through it. She is just trying to survive her life. She's getting a divorce from the a-hole that she was married to that we meet in Flawless, and it's just a lot, but absolutely adored this. This is I don't know, I didn't think I liked Surprise Baby, and then I read this and I was just like, yes, I am all for it. So this was amazing. I loved it. Then next we have Sin Bin by Teagan Hunter. This is not One Night Leads to a Baby. This is one night Amelia and Smith slept together. Then it turns out that Amelia is going to be the new PR for the hockey team that Smith works for, and so they can't be together. But of course, they're drawn to each other. They're drawn together. Things are gonna happen again because they realize that night was good. It was special. So, and it is age gap. Smith is towards the end of his career. So he's like, you know what? After this season, I just want to be with you. I want to be with you. So, age gap, hockey, it was great. One night leads to more. Then we have The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. So this is Hallie and Jack. And Hallie is a bartender at a wedding that Jack is at. And Jack ends up dumping his girlfriend at this wedding. And he goes and drowns his sorrows in alcohol, and Hallie ends up joining him, and they sleep together. And then they end up, and she sneaks out of the room the next morning, and then they end up on a dating app and they match together, but they realize that who each other is, and so they just become best friends. And they kind of bet each other who's going to fall in love, who's going to fall in love with someone else first. There's this whole big bet, and yeah, it was super cute, adorable. I loved it. And yeah, I don't know, I say the same things, but so that was One Night Led to Best Friends. Then we have In the Weeds by Peake Borison, another one night that did not lead to a baby. So this one is Beckett and Evelyn, and Evelyn and Beckett met one night at a conference or something. Yeah, a conference, I believe, and they decided to sleep together. And then it turns out that Evelyn ends up being the influencer that comes to Love Light Farms in the first book, Love Light Farms. And Beckett is like, oh, yeah, I remember you. Well, now it's a couple months after all of that. And Evelyn is facing severe burnout. And she wants to go back to the last place she was happy, and that was at Love Light Farms. So she goes, and she ends up staying with Beckett. And Beckett is just such a he is a grump with a gooey center. He just loves baby animals. He has all these different pets and things. He could have been featured in my Trope Tuesday animals that I'll link up above, but and he like tells her like to find her happy, and it's just adorable. And yeah, so one night led to Evelyn end up being very happy. Next up, we have Here With Me by Brooke Montgomery. This is Noah and Fisher, and one night Noah is at a rodeo and she sees this guy Fisher, and they end up sleeping together. He basically tells her that he can get her off in 8 seconds, and she's like, okay, challenge accepted. And so they sleep together. They had a great night. Then the next morning she realizes that he is her ex's dad, and kind of like ghosts him, and he ends up learning who she is and realizing that he's actually going to be working for her family, and tries to get in contact with her. She's like completely like ghosted him, will not talk to him, nothing. And so they see each other on his first day of work, where he's become the new farrier, and of course they're just drawn together. Of course you add in the complication of it being her ex's dad, the age gap, they work for the same place. It was so good. Then we have The Baby Blitz by Lex Martin. This is the 3rd book in the Varsity Dad series. Could be read as a standalone. You meet Magnolia and Michael in the 1st book, and you do see like other characters in this, but it's not necessary to read them in order. So Magnolia and Michael, it starts off in the prologue, they knew each other in high school. And you knew, if you read the 2nd book, you knew that they didn't like each other. There was no, like, you could tell they just were not fans of each other. No, thank you. Well, now it's like, so you learn what happened in high school. Like, Michael said something about Magnolia to her brother, his brother's best friend. So, and it like, it ruined a relationship for Magnolia. And so now she like hates, and she overheard this whole thing and she hates him. And now it is years later, and they're in college, and they're actually at his sister's wedding, because she like does graphic design and designs like wedding invitations and things for people. And so she had designed his sister's wedding invitation and got an invite to the wedding. So she went to the wedding, and her and Michael slept together, and then he said something or did something, and it like, she kind of pushed him away. Well, it turns out she ended up being pregnant, and they need to somehow make it work. So that's another one night leads to a baby. But I mean, that's often the case in one nights, because I think the next couple I have are one night leads to baby. So this is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is a wonderful book with great disability rep. The hero is an amputee from bone cancer, and the heroine has like it was like she had like a birth defect where she was only born with like her hand wasn't fully developed. And this is own voices for that, because the author has that, there's a term for it, but I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say it, but the author has that. So it is own voices for that. And there's like a lot of like vulnerability in here of when like being afraid to like be a mom, because she only has like one full hand and then like half a hand. And Hannah Bonham Young has like had those same issues, and like so it's like her own experiences in this book. But this is Bo and Win, and they meet one night at a party where they're both just as pirates, because he has one leg, she has half a hand, so she like has a hook, and he obviously pretends like he has a peg leg. And they hit it off as being pirates together, and they sleep together. Then turns out she ends up being pregnant, and things go from there. They just have to navigate like learning to get to know each other, and it is just it's so sweet. Like, I could see where I know some people didn't love it because they just said, what happened in this? I could see that. It is just them getting to know each other. It's very like, it's soft. It's just a soft romance, in my opinion, and I adored it. So that is it. That, and then the last one night leads to baby is Unexpected Forever by Eliza Peake. This is a baseball romance. This is a best friend's brother romance. This is Charlie and Nate, and Charlie is best friends with Nate's sister, and she goes to pick Nate up for this party that they're throwing for, I think it's for Charlie's brother and Nate's sister's engagement. Or it could just be for Nate's sister's birthday. Could I tell you her name? No, don't remember the sister's name, but that's okay because it's not about her. So Charlie and Nate have one night where, like, at the party, and they're like dancing around each other, and they end up going back to Nate's hotel room, and one thing leads to another. They have a wild, passionate night, like, together, and then turns out she ends up being pregnant. Well, now her and Nate has gone back to Florida to play baseball, and now they got to navigate this together, and it's just so, it was super fun. I loved it. I read it in like a day, had a great time with it. Then I have two novellas that are one night leads to more. So the first one is A Thief in the Night by KG Charles. I've listened to this. It was like an audio exclusive, I think, on Audible. And it is a male-male romance where the two heroes, Miles and Toby, meet one night and they do something together. And then, I don't remember, I think it was Toby stole Miles's wallet, or he stole his stuff, not his wallet, because it's historical. He stole his stuff, and then Toby ends up working for, I could have them back flipped. Then Toby ends up working for Miles, and of course, things are gonna lead to them becoming more. And then the last one I have is Bloody Fairy by B. Love. This one's kind of a stretch, because, so, this is Sina and Diesel saves Sina from something, and she goes back to, like, thank him. They have a night where all they do is kiss, and she kind of admits that she's never, like, had true pleasure, so he is like, okay, I'll give that to you. Well, that moment leads to some other stuff happening down the road. So it's kind of one night. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going with it. You know what? I want to wreck it because it is probably one of the best novellas I've ever read. Absolutely loved it. Then I have some books on my TBR that I know are one night leads to more. Devney Perry has two of them. So the first one is Indigo A Ridge. This one is the new in town chief of police comes to town, and she has a one night stand with a guy. Turns out that he is, like, a member of the Eden family, which is, like, this very, like, well-known prominent family in the place that she's going to be living. They hit a night together. Now they're kind of enemies, and then of course they're gonna fall in love. Then I have Tattered by Devney Perry, which I know is one night leads to baby. Then we have Tempt by Melanie Harlow. This is it's an ex's dad. They slept together, then they realize that it is her ex's dad, and things go from there. And then we have One Moment Please by Amy Daws, which I believe is one night leads to baby. I could be wrong, but I do know. I was, like, looking at lists, and so yes, that is all. Those are my 10 recs and 4 books on my TBR that are one night leads to more, whether it's one night just leads to hatred, one night leads to best friends, one night leads to baby, whatever it may be. What are some of your favorite one night leads to more? And if you made it to the end of this video, leave me a baby emoji, because more often than not, it becomes one night leads baby. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Bye.